Whilst everyone else worries about surviving the harsh weather conditions that come with Harmattan, drivers are also having to deal with poor visibility on the road. For commercial drivers stationed at Circle and who ply the Accra-Koforidua route, the poor visibility comes with the added challenge of obscuring the road markings with implications for road safety. Bernice Abubedu has been learning more about their challenges.
The Harmattan season has set in, and aside leaving us with cracked lips and very dry bodies, there's one thing that's of concern to a lot of motorists. That's road safety and visibility. So I'm here at Circle and I'm here to speak to some of the drivers who ply the Ebri-Mamfe-Koforidua road. The Harmattan or the fog there is very, very dense and thick. Let's find out from some of these drivers how they're coping with this weather. Me pache your friend saying.
Me pache your friend Kwesi Boateng. I would do na friend Jordan.
All right, Jordan. Now, I'm fear saying na why you so Ebri kwano. And I hefa pote na ya oko.
Me pache me Koforidua driver. Me ba kwano so 6 years ni. Na pache Harmattan ya by the white idura no pasa na na ba na. You hwehwe into white you know e wo kwano white lane na de hwe na de drive. Na ba si say no bebre so apepa free kwano tike be anke esre mo an say momwa na nka omomfa me yansana say be ya esan bia intimate to ye.
All right, so Jordan has been telling me that he's been using the Accra-Koforidua route for about 6 years now, and he says that at this time of the season, when they're coming at dawn, the fog is very dense, so they usually use the white markings on the roads. Unfortunately, most of those white markings have faded, and so it's really difficult for them when they're driving at this time of the year, especially at dawn. And so he's asking that those responsible, the Roads and Highways Authority, come to fix those white markings so that they're able to see, so there's no tragedy. But Jordan, I'm going to ask him now what they do to cope since the white markings are not there. Into Jordan, sisi white markings ni ho. Into sisi and then amuye to help yourselves as drivers and the people and passengers na ya muni omonam no.
Who say kwan ya fast watch nti ya adwen kakra ne Nyankopon ehun ban a de bɔ no nti na ma yɛfie tumi yɛ nkakra ne yɛ de patience for na bedura sumbi.
All right. He adds that for now, since the white markings are not available, they use experience and God's grace to cope, and they're very familiar with the route, so they're just trusting that no tragedy will occur as they use their experience and trust God to guide them through. Finally, you find say reflectors, lights. And I say, once a fog lights, those other essentials, now what kind of bit me about it's an oncoming vehicle. Send more drivers, who communicate.
Na ba who say a tisi kwam na bo na basana ya also higher who hwe ya madim ubon say bo ne basa ubon say more na ya so double. Nti say wo ba ubon say double ne so sana obi e hia ohun say minua na eba no na osu won se ni unua so na ebe sin atwam je e wo kwan na ubekọ nchama na no so aba be sin atwam.
Okay, he adds that they also use their lights. They put on the hazard. So it's usually around this time when you put on the highlights, it's very difficult to see. So they use the hazards, and so that they can communicate to oncoming vehicles that they are approaching themselves, and so that's how they stay safe. So I'll speak to a few more drivers to find out from them how they're coping in this Harmattan season.
No question, they say, send ya a bonus, kakra.
The fog makes driving on the Ebri-Koforidua stretch very scary. If you don't drive carefully on that route during this period, you will not arrive safely. It's very scary, so I'd encourage drivers to be very careful. When my visibility is impaired, I drive very slowly and keep to my lane. I avoid going too much to the edge or moving to the middle of the road.
I'm Namboko. Min kon bebre, and I'm in my fin bebre.
And I pay my drivers in the bear for now, Baby Julia. No more banner, or much less send a bonus city and ordering.
About 4 drivers have arrived from Koforidua this morning. According to them, the fog is very high, so if your lights are not good, you could have problems. There are a lot of curves on the Ebri-Koforidua road, so a driver who is not familiar with the road can have an accident. The drivers who are not familiar with the road are being told to use the Suhum Koforidua Road. We are appealing with those responsible to fix the white lanes on the road so we can clearly know which routes to use.
It's white lane, and also I'm going to turn in my pepe. No, I'm so to.
All right, we're staying with the subject. It's really about climate change. And climate change, though you may not really feel the effects of it, it's all around us. If you look at the Akosombo Dam and the fact that it's drying up, it doesn't hold as much water as it used to be. It could be the effect of climate change. If we hear of water or seawater rushing onshore and clearing people's lands and submerging people's houses, it could be the effect of climate change. But it's not all that destructive. There could be some opportunities rising from climate change. And here tonight, to talk to us about it, is the Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, Nana Osei-Bonsu. Good evening and welcome to Joy News Prime.
Good evening, sir.
All right, so a lot of people really wouldn't bother about climate change because it really doesn't impact on them a lot of time directly. In fact, the effects of climate change are not so felt here in our part of, well, in Ghana, as compared to other countries, as China and the rest, where you have smog and it directly impacts the people. But why should we in Ghana worry about climate change?
Well, as you said, we don't recognize it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It does exist in our environment, but the fact that we're oblivious to the detriment and all the things that climate change brings to us. Bushfires, flooding, as you said, sea rushing to the shores to deplete the shoreline, the Akosombo dryness, and a whole lot of things that affect us. But because we have not been sensitized to the effect of these climate change, we assume that there's a third angle or something else other than climate change that is impacting on those. But those are part of the climate change. The temperatures, high temperatures and the heat that we're exhibiting now are a consequence of climate change. So we have to now, what we do now is to sensitize the general public, one, because the government of Ghana signed on to the Bali Action Plan in 2007 and selected 55 sectors that we can use to reduce the carbon emission in the greenhouse environment. And with that, they selected five sectors: electricity or the energy sectors, renewable energy, waste management, land management, mining industry and all. So what we're looking now is, yes, indeed, there's a devastating or negative impact of climate change. But then what are the positive sides? What can we turn that into?
All right, so that's what we're interested in.
That is what we all should be interested in.
Okay, the positives, and yes. You're suggesting that probably there could be some money that could be made out of it.
Of course there's money to be made up, because if you institute the measures to reduce the climate change, to reduce the carbon emissions, like reforestation, planting trees of value, cocoa, cashew nuts, oil palm, those kind of things, those are money to be made. So if you engage investors in trying to do those things, they have money margins and they have the impact on climate change as well. So you're killing two birds with one stone. If you look at waste management and people collecting waste, reducing the damage of waste in our waterways and all, those are direct impact on our livelihood and as much as money to be made in that kind of environment. So we from the Private Enterprise Federation are talking on the positive side of things that you can do. And because of that, we were engaged by the United Nations Development Agency, UNDP, and other UN agencies, and the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology, and Innovations to be the intermediary private sector angle with GIPC to educate the general public, to educate the private sector of monies to be made in climate change environment, in the greenhouse industry.
All right, so from what you're saying, it suggests to me that when you're talking about opportunities or people taking advantage of opportunities when as far as climate change is concerned, it has to do with businesses and investors and huge companies.
Yes.
Where does that leave ordinary folks like us?
Well, ordinary folks that are not in the business are going to be beneficiary of the businesses.
How?
In the sense that if you and I are investors and we put our monies together to invest in waste management, taking the the scented waste out of the community. So the community can breathe easier. The community can have something better to do.
Okay.
But then we also creating
that's one benefit.
we're also creating jobs
right.
for others to do. And so it's not like a huge conglomerate that can do it. We can have mom and pops, the small scale industries that can get into and partnership that can scale up to the level where, you know, the driver who is taking the dump from the garbage from the household, about 2-man team. The individuals at the garbage dump that are segregating and segmenting the garbage from recyclables to paper to plastics and to bottles. Those are jobs, those are opportunities. So the average person stands to gain if collectively we can do this as a business opportunity instead of looking at it from the negative angle where it's impacting on our livelihood in the heat warming and the global warming, as we also
So you talk about it being done collectively. That's where the Private Enterprise Federation comes in. What are you doing as a collective to make sure this thing happens?
We have engaged businesses who are already in that arena, and we had segmented them into northern and southern sectors. The northern sector is Kumasi, Ashanti, Brahafo, and the 3 northern regions, and the southern part is Accra, Central Region, Western Region, Eastern Region, and Volta. And those are the southern and the northern. We brought them to be aware of the opportunities, and we want to build the capacity, the competencies to do things that will reduce the carbon emission. It's not all public sector. Majority can be done by private sector. Majority can be done in public-private partnership. And with that, we have also now brought them to the level where they dialogue with each other. If somebody is in Accra doing waste management, he compares notes with the guy in Kumasi doing something similar and see how they can build synergies in the, you know, so that is what we're doing, and had brought them into what we call the private sector investors in NAMA platform, which is listed at the website of the Private Enterprise Federation, which is www.pef.org.gh. If you go there, you see a whole lot of opportunities. We have also developed an investor guidelines that will alert investors as to the opportunities, what it entails, and how to approach the business as to what you want to do.
All right, and tell us about the various areas, the fields the sectors that you're looking at.
Agriculture.
As for agriculture.
Forestry, land management, waste management, building and construction, mining and renewable energy, transport, you know, vehicles that are clogging our driveways and streets with clunkers that exude a whole lot of emissions. If we were to do a baseline analysis today, and we see the levels where we are, and reduce as you go to DVLA, beginning of the year, you test and you don't pass the test at a certain threshold that is set, what do? There's a business, 2 businesses that have established a cleanup, that they're going to clean the engines of the vehicles so they become usable and go back to the streets. Those who don't qualify, what do we do with them?
Yeah.
If we set them aside, the public needs transportation. So we have to have a public transportation system. If not, we have to retool or engage the owners of these vehicles to give them new ones. So they use the old ones as credit on the basis of that. So you need the financial institutions to come in as partners to provide the liquidity for the people that we need.
But right there and then, what I see in there is that if you're having to set aside somebody's vehicle, a commercial vehicle, for instance, because they don't qualify, that means that trotro driver is losing a job.
Well, that trotro driver doesn't have to lose a job if we have a credit line available using his old one as a deposit and allow him a credit line to buy a new one, which is more efficient for him.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So which comes first? That credit line before the driver loses, the trotro driver loses their job?
We would prefer to have a part of liquidity that can be utilized for that purposes. But as of now, we don't. As of now, the government has not set aside or incentivized that kind of work. But if we are able to reduce to the level, there's a huge global climate fund that the country can tap into. Some of them can be set aside for this purpose. And that's where we're going with the businesses to at least work with us to lower the carbon emission to the level where the country as a whole qualifies for the international levels of emission.
How about carbon credits?
Yes. That is part.
How do we tap into that?
How do we tap into that? You gain the carbon credit as you lower your emissions. And you lower emissions by doing all the things that we have identified here, all the things that are in the investor's guide. So once we're able to do that, we get a carbon credit, use that to tap into the global fund.
Can companies try and, how can companies actually secure some carbon credits? Or it has to be a governmental thing?
No, if a company X is doing manufacturing and the carbon emission level is at X, if they put in structures to lower the X to X minus 5, they already have qualified and done something. So that will allow government of Ghana to lead into the qualifying for the levels of emission that had been reduced. And that comes, because of that, we get the carbon credit and the global funding. So that company is now going to be a beneficiary of the X reduction in the carbon emission through the calculation of some methodology that's in place.
But can't that company just go to whichever body to say, okay, I've reduced my emissions by so much, and so you have to give me carbon credits of maybe...
Well, you can get a credit, but 50. You see, this is a collective action on a national basis. So as X company, you have done what you need to do, and so you have to push your leadership as to what ministry or what agency is in charge of that, and then collectively can say, okay, if we come to waste management, we have done X. If we come to water management, we have done Y. So in that regard, the people that engage in that reduction are going to be the beneficiaries. The country can turn around and say, okay, we're going to set aside, segregate a percentage for the people that were in that arena, and also set aside for those who are coming in, because you also want to attract other participants to expand the base of carbon emission reduction.
How far has PEF gone in trying to get this thing implemented?
Well, we started with the investor guide about 18 months ago, and we have completed that. It's now listed on our platform at Ministry of Environment and all, at EPA and UNDP. Now we're engaging the individual businesses that are already on the ground and engage them with capacity building, because it's critical to understand and appreciate what kind of technical skills, what kind of competencies that you need to be able to do. Once we've done that, and now they're scaling up their business, the first and foremost is financial. How do we get a pot of gold that is set aside to enable them to scale up? And that's where we're going with the next round of. The next 3 years, those are the competencies and the financial resources to boost the businesses to the level where they become meaningful and create the impact.
Now, you're the chief executive of the Private Enterprise Federation.
Yes, sir.
But you're there by virtue of the fact that you're also a businessman.
Well,
how are you eyeing, or what is it you're eyeing as far as this climate change opportunity is concerned?
Oh, well, I think agriculture is the name of the game. Mechanization, irrigation, infrastructure delivery, the kind of warehouse receipts. So to me, my forte is agriculture, because at the end of the day, we all have to eat. And the things that no matter whether you're poor, young or old, you're going to do is eat.
Yeah.
And so with that, you can't go wrong. There's always a market for that.
All right.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Nana Osei-Bonsu is the Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation, and we'll be talking about climate change and the opportunities, the boundless opportunities, I believe, that are there as far as climate change is concerned. We're all most always concerned about the negative effects of climate change, but here he's telling us that there are opportunities there for us as well. We're taking a break on Joy News Prime. We'll be back with sports. Stay tuned.